afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name's Viking Kristjansson. We'll be talking about drain considerations for the modern food plant. One of the biggest questions I get from existing food plants is, why is my drainage so bad? What did we do? Why did we select this? I have all these issues, and so what we want to talk about is, like, what are you selecting? Why are you selecting it? Are you leaving it in the hands of designers, which have great ideas, but does everyone understand what they're supposed to be doing and why it needs to be considered? So, what you'll see here is these images are the largest problems, right? They either have not enough drains or they've chosen the wrong drain. This is a real food facility that just chose a trench drain that couldn't handle the solids, couldn't handle the flows, couldn't handle the foam. Obviously, this is your largest concern in a food plant is, bacteria, listeria. This stuff comes from your drains. For the most part, 70% of it is coming from the floors and the drains. And this is like a real food facility. And with all of the issues we see these days, cleaning and the respect of drains is needed. And when I say the respect of drains, quite often we just think of these things as, a cavity on the floor that takes the water and filth away and I don't have to worry about them. The truth is, you need to create a culture in your business that has a thought of equipment, that drainage is equipment and it needs to be respected as such, just like your conveyors or everything else that you're doing. And if you have that mentality in your facility, then all of your staff look at it the same way. But if it's all thought of as just something that's on the ground to collect filth, it becomes a real issue. Many of you probably have, concrete trenches. This is how it all started, right? We poured concrete trenches and lots of chemicals and CIP and depending on what products you are, if you're in tomatoes or carrots or anything acidic, this is what you see happening all the time. So making sure that we're putting in materials that don't erode over time. I love this photo because it says so much. Like, clearly they selected the wrong type of drain system for an area that was maybe seeing heavy traffic. And you see that not only has the grate bent and created a hazard, but now that whole drain is flexed and pulled away from the concrete. And so now we've got water intruding beneath the drain, but beside it and into the concrete. The floor coating is chipped away because it was installed improperly. There's no keyway along that drain, which means that floor coating cannot bond directly to the drain. So this just shows this is such a huge problem in your industry, and it all comes down to drain selection. And quite often it's like, well, that drain you just saw is a pretty cheap drain, but that's why it was purchased. But what they didn't realize is that it's going to bend and break, and I'm going to have to replace it, and it's going to cost me 3 times what I initially spent. I should have just bought the right system at the right time. So what is the product we're purchasing? What is the material? We think about these upfront costs, the quick answers, right? My budget is this. I can't afford that. Well, what's your overall long-term budget over a year of operation or 5 years of operation and cleaning and maintenance and lawsuits? Look what's going on the earth today, right? Like, people are dying because people aren't cleaning their drains properly. It's really a sad, but true thing. So we want to really look at it that way and understand that these hidden costs are much more expensive if you don't think about them before you start building, or if you start to replace and upgrade your existing facilities. What is a food-safe drain design? It comes down to really hygienic principles. The best drains out there, say an area drain like this, and there's typically area drains, trench drains, slot drains, floor sinks. The best area drains are fully spun, meaning that they're not welded in by a bunch of different parts, because that's what you'll see out there. You'll see that piece 1 is welded to piece 2, and piece 2 is welded to piece 3, and so on and so forth. So there's so many different welds that if you can find someone who manufactures a drain that is fully spun and only has an outlet welded on it and the top welded on it, you've decreased your risk of contamination exponentially. Again, just no niche designs and trenches and slots, making sure that there are no cavities, nowhere for water to stand. And then you want it out of stainless steel. I want to stress this. Don't be putting concrete trenches in like old school. It just doesn't work anymore, because what happens is in those areas where that concrete, or maybe if you can put floor coatings in it, it eventually delaminates. And if you've got listeria in your drains, it seeps into the concrete because it's porous and you can't get rid of it. So you can try to bleach it and do a bunch of things with chemicals, but it eventually just comes back. So stainless steel is the right drainage choice, and you should also be considering this for your underground. And I know that's costly, but when we put in CPVC, which might last for a long time and might not deteriorate fully, what it can do is if let's say, an accident just occurred for a customer of mine where someone dumped a kettle directly into a stainless steel drain, and the drain was fine, but the underground, the CPVC melted, and it held its integrity, except it caved in on itself. So it actually creates an issue that you don't want in your facility, because now you got to pull that out as well. So whether you do all stainless underground or you start with stainless and run it for 40, 50 feet from areas where you might see hot water into a CPVC, that's also a good idea. So just keep that in mind. And then also you want to make sure that the drains you're putting in can, again, handle those heavy loads like we spoke about. So that's a load class of E at a minimum. That can handle those heavy duty forklift traffic. Now, many drain manufacturers don't structurally reinforce their drains. They utilize the installation method, which should be done anyway, but they don't actually structurally reinforce them with an angle that can actually now prevent drains from moving when they're and cracking away from the concrete, because that's where your real issues are. So you want to make sure whatever drain you select is also reinforced and is designed specifically for those E-class loads. So here's some new technologies that are out there that you should probably be looking at when selecting drains for whether it's a new facility or replacement. Connect a hot water line to your drains and flush them. You can actually connect this to, say, a sanitation station. You can be pushing through sanitizer, foams, chemicals, and cleaning your drains that way. There are some assisted clean-in-place drain products where you can actually plug the system. They're overflow protected. You can now fill it with a hot caustic. So let's say someone wasn't doing their job, you can now actually CIP it essentially, let it soak, brush it, and release it, and now you've eliminated that risk. So when we get down to it, what are we selecting, right? We've really got these three main types of drains that we see in the industry, which are area drains, trench drains, slot drains. Started with trench drains. Everyone was putting trench drains in and grates, but it turned out that grates aren't so great, and they're difficult to clean, they're unsafe. Many companies decided, we don't want trenches anywhere anymore, so let's just do area drains everywhere, and that's created a whole other bunch of issues, because now you've got a much larger underground infrastructure, because when you go from linear, you go from a few floor slopes to an area drain approach where you go to multiple floor slopes, and now you've got way more P-traps, way more underground systems, so much that gets added to it. But I understand the reasoning behind it. Well, these are easier to clean. They are still unsafe because you've got a lot of lids to remove, a lot of moving parts in them. And then slot drains also have grown hugely in popularity in North America. Are heavy-duty lasting products that are easy to clean and proven to be easy to clean and able to inspect them. So it really just depends what you're using. They're not great for collecting solids. If you need something to collect a lot of volume of water at once, like a kettle or something, or you want to collect solids, then trench drains are great, but you have to deal with the cleaning challenges. And then area drains are awesome, but they're really designed for small areas, not for mass use. So you're going to look at your facility from low to high risk and determine, where are we using stainless drains, where are we using cast iron drains, because you'll have both in any facility. So we look at a whole facility and try to understand it. We talk with our clients and your engineers or architects and try to make that decision with you, not for you. In new construction, when you're designing, the sky's the limit as far as what your ideas are. So we look at a whole facility and try to understand, like, as you'll see in this photo, there's area drains in areas, not everywhere. And we've put slot drains or trench drains in linear areas where we can control the amount of slope. We make it easier for equipment to be installed and for people to walk, whether that's also traffic, forklift rating traffic. They don't want to be driving around area drains. There's a whole linear style approach where there are no area drains, just based on what's happening in a facility. So just really showing you that, there's really not one way to skin a cat here. There's multiple ways. It really depends on what you're doing in your facility, why you're doing it. So it's the where, when, and why of drainage. This is an interesting case study because this is someone decided, hey, let's put in 12 area drains. And after talking about what was happening in this facility, that upper corridor there is all forklift traffic, and any forklift operator will tell you, I don't want to drive a forklift in there. So we put in one slot drain very close to the racking system, And now a forklift is driving on one slope instead of multiple. And then also one slot drain in the production area, because now it can just be linear with the facility. And we've eliminated 10 P-traps and multiple floor slopes. This is a current project we're working on where this came to us, and this is something very commonplace you'll see nowadays. And it's because it's a safe way for engineering to design, because you're not going to get in trouble for this because it's expected now. It's expected to be an area drain approach because nobody wants trench drains, and people aren't educated enough on slot drains to make that decision. So we do this. But after speaking with the engineers, consultants, and owners, here's what we decided on. And you can see that we eliminated 171 P-traps. We eliminated 684 unique floor slopes, 30% less underground piping, less labor, less material, $500,000 of savings. And how that works is you just look at it in a 4,800 square foot area, and you'll note that, well, if we do an area drain approach or we do a linear drain approach, whether that's a slot or a trench drain, you can see the amount of floor slopes, 48 floor slopes. So in this example, just on material alone, it's $1,000 per area drain savings to go with a slot drain or a linear approach. So it's a $12,000 savings just in the underground piping. Like, think about, we go from 220 feet of stainless steel underground pipe or CPVC to 10 feet. And I mean, assuming this is all connected to a main run, but you can see the value here. And now, instead of 12 P-traps, you've got one P-trap. One of the things we're seeing out there right now is that, as I mentioned, bacteria is coming from your drains. It's coming from the areas you can't clean. And when I say that, think about all the underground piping in your facility. There's really not a good way to clean it. There are chemical companies out there that will pump foam it. They'll foam all your underground, but think about the cost associated with it. So what I'm hearing and seeing in the industry right now is I've got clients coming to me asking us to eliminate all underground pipe and utilize slot to convey the water, because you can inspect it, you can clean it, and now you no longer have that issue. So I'm working on 3 projects currently that have eliminated all underground pipe, because that's a key issue. And not that it works for everyone, and it can't work for everybody, but if it can work for you, it's worth considering. 75% of our market is, facility upgrades and improvements. Not everyone's building all the time. We're trying to upgrade an existing facility, and the key takeaway from this is you've got to have a company that can come in and deliver a turnkey solution, because as a food facility plant manager, you're not worried about doing construction. You've got to find somebody who knows what they're talking about. We've got an alliance partnership team that can come in and actually provide this benefit for you. And it's really, it's a simple process, but it can be quite messy, and you need to be someone that you can trust that's going to keep it clean. They're probably going to come in on a Friday, and by the time you come in on Monday, it's all done and good and ready to go. So you're scanning, scoping, cutting, coring, excavating, installing drains, concrete pour and floor coatings, and it's nice to have a partner that can do all those things for you without having to source this all yourselves. So this is what a typical project looks like, and this is just this is either adding, upgrading, and or replacing. Now, drain maintenance is key, right? We talked about it. Are you going to put in trench drains everywhere and it's going to take hours to clean? I remember when cleaning crews literally had a full 8-hour shift to clean, and sometimes it feels like they have 4 hours now. So how do you effectively clean? It's no secret, but we are pretty pro slot drain. We are the original patent holders of slot drain. Now, if you were to look at a linear drain and say a slot drain over a trench drain, it's literally a 75% labor savings or time savings. So if you're using slot and using the tools effectively and properly, your team can actually do their job the way they're supposed to. So we've got some new innovations that you might want to consider also. One of the biggest problems out there is that delamination of floor coatings at drains, and there's a couple of reasons for it. You need to put in a keyway along drains so that, like as I mentioned, your floor coating can bond properly to the side of the drain. Now, there is something interesting about stainless steel. It's got a nano oxygen layer on it, which really prevents anything from sticking and adhering. So there's a process that has to happen by your drain manufacturers. They have to remove the nano oxygen layer, which isn't done by many. That has to be removed, and then a primer has to be added prior to the floor coating so that you get proper adhesion. And we can prove that it actually adds 80% strength and adhesion to a stainless drain than without. So that's just something that you really need to consider as well. Why FoodSafe drains? I think that we've worked with tons of great companies, food companies, design builders, engineering firms. We understand this industry. Both Bell & Evans and Clemens Food Group won 2022 and 2023 Food Plant of the Year. It's clear that it was the drainage that brought them over the edge. And we make every stainless steel drain there is out there. So whatever it is you need for sanitary solutions, we're a technology company. You can see that we're trying to make a difference in your industry as well. I hope that you'll find us a consultative partner. We have a massive project and management on-time delivery focus, making sure that your products arrive on site. I would say that we're easy to work with, whether it's CAD, Revit, BIM modeling. We have our certified, alliance network to help with small turnkey projects or large projects. And then we've got our value-added support. We can help with drain layouts, design consultations, work with your engineering team. And then, we want to be the best customer service industry leaders out there. So these are just some of the reasons we hope that you choose us in the future. And our aim is just to be your consultative partner and show value-added service. So just really appreciate you coming. Have a wonderful day and evening. And if you need anything, just reach out to our team. We're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. Great job, Viking.
Thanks.
All right, we'd like to thank you so much for visiting us at Innovation Stage. We'll be doing this again tomorrow. Our first session starts at